Self-priority is not selfish. It is survival and growth. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner your life begins to change in a meaningful way. Many people spend years as believing that putting themselves first is wrong, that it means ignoring others or being inconsiderate, but that belief often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and a quiet sense of losing yourself. When you constantly place everyone else's needs above your own, you slowly begin to disappear, your energy fades, your passion weakens, and your sense of direction becomes unclear. Life is not meant to be lived that way, constantly drained and disconnected from who you truly are. Prioritizing yourself means recognizing that your well-being matters, your dreams matter, and your voice deserves to be heard, not just by others, but by you as well. When you take care of yourself first, you are not taking anything away from others. Instead, you are building a stronger version of yourself that can actually give more, love better, and contribute in a healthier way. Think about it. If you are physically tired, emotionally overwhelmed, and mentally drained, how can you truly support anyone else? How can you show up fully in your relationships, your work, or your goals? You cannot give what you do not have, and that is why self-priority becomes a foundation, not a luxury. It is about making sure that you are strong enough to face life, that you are stable enough to handle challenges, and that you are fulfilled enough to create something meaningful. Growth begins the moment you start choosing yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it goes against what you have always been taught. It means setting boundaries when necessary, saying no without guilt, and walking away from situations that drain your energy or compromise your values. This is not easy, especially in a world where people often expect you to constantly give, adjust, and sacrifice. But real growth never comes from constant sacrifice of your own identity. It comes from balance, from knowing when to give and when to protect yourself. Self-priority also means investing in your own development, your skills, your mindset, and your emotional health. It means taking time to reflect, to understand what truly matters to you, and to align your actions with your purpose. When you do this, you begin to move with clarity. You make better decisions, and you stop living a life that feels forced or borrowed from others. You start creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling, one that reflects who you really are, not who you are expected to be. There will always be people who misunderstand your choices, who think that choosing yourself means you no longer care about them. But the truth is, choosing yourself allows you to care in a healthier way. It removes resentment, it builds confidence, and it creates a sense of inner peace that cannot be achieved by constantly neglecting your own needs. At the end of the day, your life is your responsibility, your happiness is your responsibility, and your growth depends on the decisions you make for yourself. So understand this clearly. Self-priority is not selfish. It is necessary. It is powerful, and it is the starting point of a life that is strong, balanced, and truly your own. Your inner voice matters more than outside noise, and learning to trust it is one of the most powerful decisions you will ever make, because the world is full of opinions, expectations, and constant distractions that try to shape who you should be, how you should live, and what you should believe. From the moment you begin to grow, you are surrounded by voices telling you what is right and what is wrong, what is possible and what is not, what path you should follow, and what dreams are too big for you. And if you are not careful, those voices can become louder than your own thoughts, slowly pushing your true self into the background. Over time, you may begin to question your instincts, doubt your choices, and feel unsure about your direction, not because you lack clarity, but because you have been listening to too much noise for too long. Your inner voice, however, is different. It is quiet, honest, and deeply connected to who you truly are. It does not shout or demand attention, but it speaks with a kind of truth that cannot be faked. It knows your strengths, your fears, your desires, and your purpose, and it tries to guide you in a direction that feels right, even when it does not seem easy. The problem is not that your inner voice is weak. The problem is that outside noise is constant and overwhelming, coming from people, social media, society, and even from your own past experiences, all competing for your attention. If you allow that noise to control you, you may end up living a life that looks acceptable from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. Listening to your inner voice requires courage because as it often asks you to do things that others may not understand. It may guide you to take risks, to walk away from comfort, to stand alone, or to pursue something that does not fit into the expectations of those around you. It asks you to trust yourself even when there is no guarantee of success. And that can be uncomfortable, especially when the outside world offers easier, safer, and more familiar options. But real fulfillment never comes from simply following the crowd. It comes from aligning your actions with your truth, even when it feels uncertain. When you start valuing your inner voice more than outside noise, something begins to shift within you. You become more confident in your decisions, more focused on your path, and less affected by criticism or doubt from others. You begin to understand that not every opinion deserves your attention. And not every piece of advice is meant for your life. This does not mean you ignore everyone. It means you learn to filter what you hear, to take what is useful and leave what does not align with you. You stop seeking constant validation, and instead you start building a sense of self. Trust that becomes your strongest foundation. There will always be noise. There will always be people who question your choices, who doubt your vision, or who try to influence your direction, but none of them can truly see what you feel inside. They do not live your life. They do not carry your dreams, and they do not understand your journey the way you do. That is why your inner voice must come first, because it is the only guide that is completely connected to your truth. So learn to slow down, to create moments of silence, and to listen to what is already within you, because the answers you are searching for are not always out there in the world. They are often inside you, waiting for you to pay attention. Trust that voice, follow it with confidence, and let it lead you toward a life that feels real, meaningful, and truly yours. When you choose yourself, you create your best life, and this choice is not a single moment. It is a continuous decision you make every day in your thoughts, your actions, and the standards you set for yourself. Many people wait for the perfect time, the right approval, or the ideal circumstances before they begin to truly live for themselves. But that moment rarely comes because life does not suddenly give permission. It responds to the courage you show in choosing your own path. Choosing yourself means stepping out of the habit of living for others and stepping into a mindset where your happiness, your growth, and your purpose become a priority, not something you postpone. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because you may have spent so much time adjusting to others that you are not used to asking yourself what you really want, what truly fulfills you, and what kind of life you want to build. But the moment you begin to ask those questions honestly, you start to reconnect with yourself, and that connection becomes the foundation of a better life. You begin to understand your values, your passions, and your limits, and with that understanding, you gain the power to make choices that align with who you are, rather than who you are expected to be. Choosing yourself also means taking responsibility for your life instead of waiting for change to happen on its own. It means recognizing that your future is shaped by the decisions you make today, and that every small step you take toward your goals matters. You start to invest in yourself, in your skills, your mindset, and your well-being because you realize that you are your most important asset. This is where growth truly begins, not from external pressure, but from an internal commitment to become better, stronger, and more aware of your potential. There will be challenges along the way, moments when doubt creeps in, when fear tries to hold you back, or when others question your decisions. Choosing yourself does not mean the path becomes easy. It means you become stronger in facing it. You learn to stand firm in your choices, even when they are not popular, and you begin to trust that your direction, even if different, is valid and meaningful. This kind of self-trust builds confidence, and that confidence allows you to move forward with clarity instead of hesitation. When you consistently choose yourself, you also start to set boundaries that protect your energy and your peace. You become more selective about where you invest your time, who you allow into your life, and what situations you engage in. This is not about shutting people out. It is about creating a space where you can grow without constant negativity, pressure, or distraction. In that space, you find focus, and with focus, you create progress that feels real and lasting. Over time, these choices begin to shape your life in powerful ways. You build habits that support your goals. You surround yourself with environments that encourage growth, and you develop a mindset that is focused on possibilities rather than limitations. Your life starts to reflect your intentions rather than random circumstances, and that is what creates a sense of fulfillment that cannot be easily shaken. Choosing yourself also changes how you show up for others. You become more genuine, more balanced, and more capable of giving without losing yourself in the process. Instead of giving out of obligation or fear, you give from a place of strength and clarity, and that makes your relationships healthier and more meaningful. In the end, your best life is not something you find. It is something you build choice by choice, day by day, by deciding that you matter, that your dreams are worth pursuing, and that your life deserves to be lived fully. When you choose yourself, you are not just changing your present. You are shaping your future into something that is authentic, purposeful, and truly your own. In the end, everything comes back to one simple truth. Your life is your responsibility, and the way you choose to live it will define everything you become. When you understand that prioritizing yourself is not selfish, but necessary, you begin to build a strong foundation within, one that supports your growth, your peace, and your purpose. When you learn to trust your inner voice more than the noise around you, you stop living in confusion and start moving with clarity and confidence. And when you consistently choose yourself, even in small decisions, you slowly shape a life that reflects who you truly are, not what the world expects you to be. This journey is not about perfection. It is about awareness, courage, and commitment to yourself. There will be moments of doubt, moments of pressure, and moments where it feels easier to go back to old patterns. But real change comes from standing firm in your choices and remembering why you started. Every time you choose yourself, you are reinforcing your worth, strengthening your mindset, and creating a future that is aligned with your truth. So do not wait for the right time, do not wait for approval, and do not wait for life to push you in the right direction. Decide right now that you will think about yourself, listen to yourself, and choose yourself, not out of ego, but out of respect for your own life. Because at the end of the day, the greatest success is not just what you achieve, it is who you become in the process, and that begins the moment you truly start showing up for yourself.